Hi folks, so as you can probably obviously see, if I point you up this way a little bit, it's getting a bit golden hour now. So you would usually say good morning or morning folks at this point, but it's not the morning at all. It's getting on for late afternoon. Essentially what's happened is myself and Simon have been up here today doing a little bit of building, and because I've had Simon to talk to and bounce ideas off, I haven't just randomly bloody talked to myself or talked to a black box on the end of a stick. So I'm a little bit behind with the filming. However, it's Saturday. I've got a day again tomorrow where I could film. What we've been doing is working on the on what's going to be the, do you know what, I don't even have a name for it, but we're working on the track that runs the big long one, and we've got to a point where we cleared down through behind where you are now and spotted a natural camel humps, for want of a better phrase. What at first appeared to be natural camel humps then shouted out that it had an S-sperm on the other side of it. So we went from, oh, let's put some camel humps in here, which are going to be either, they won't look like it now actually because they're just laid up logs, but they're going to be either rollable as two big whoops, or you will be able to double them if you so choose. So the issue was, as soon as we got out the other side of this, we could see that there was an opportunity to S-bend berm in, and then got carried away and we're like, cool, let's put the S-bend in. But as I say, we've got to, I don't know what time it is now, it's roughly sort of 2:30-ish, and really we need to have a bit of a walk down to the rest of the track and have a bit of a decide on direction on where we're going to go now that we've got a log lay up on this. So for the rest of the day, while we've still got a little bit of light left, that's going to be our concentration. I'll catch you again in the morning. Morning folks. So yesterday I had a really good day on the trail building, but a bit of a shocker on the filming. What happened was Simon came up to give me a hand, so we got a lot done, but what that meant was, instead of talking to you guys about things that were on my mind or things to do with the trails, I ended up talking to Simon. If you're not familiar with Simon or you've not heard me speak about him before, Simon's the guy that I've gone into partnership with the events company that we're going to launch. So it was a busy day, we did really well, we got some stuff done, but I was terrible at filming. We'll fix that today. Now, those of you familiar with my building style, you may know that I have a kind of a multi-stage process. The first thing I do is visualise, which is just a posh way of saying use my imagination, and we'll come back to that in a second. I then make a pathway through where I want to go. I then lay up logs for features and to help with visualizations, and then I come back to it all and do the dirt work on it and the shaping and actual putting the trail in. So yesterday, part of the job with Simon was to kind of a bit of visualization and a bit of log work, and this section is going to be a camel hump section. Now it looks like, for the log work going in, it looks like I've put a gap in. It's not actually a gap. If I show you from the side here behind me, I'm hoping that that's picking that up, but yeah, you know, it may very well look like a gap, and if you want, only if you want, you will be able to double through it. But it's going to be a set of camel humps. Now, if you're not familiar with old school BMX, or well, to some extent Olympic wise, new school BMX as well, but camel humps are exaggerated whoops. They have two bigger mounds, and they're a bigger roll through. If any of you guys are watching who remember the old Emont Bridge Penrith BMX scene back in the day, there was a tabletop that had a set of camel humps at the top of them, and you could double over them if you wanted. These are pretty much the same distance apart as those old ones on top of the tabletop. In this case, if you so choose, you are going to be able to just kind of pop off this end here and up and over And if you can see in this section, and we'll walk you down into it, I've laid up logs for what's going to be a long sweeping S berm. I say S berm in singular. It's two berms, so you put down into here, swoop through into one. Actually, I'll just turn you around. Swoop through one, and then swoop through another, and you might be able to see towards the end you will just pop back out over a single log sized pop. Now here's the interesting part. I could stand on here, we both could stand and see where the camel humps went. That really popped out and was obvious, but I could see the S berm after it as well, and that is nothing short of just using your imagination. But when you've got somebody else with you trying to explain when you can see something that's not bloody there was all branches and stuff growing over here, and it doesn't look like it does now. In fact, it looked pretty similar to just that. It just looked like standard bits of woods, and it's not that easy to try and explain to somebody, oh, I can see this. It's to try and tell somebody what you can visualize in your mind's eye, and try and convince them to be able, or steer them in the direction to be able to see the same thing, is pretty tricky. The reason I'm going on about visualizations is because of what I'm going to do today and this section here. So we're approximately 150 meters or so down from where we've just been for where the camel humps and S berms are, and we've got this section here. Now I'm going to attempt to explain a visualization through a camera, which is possibly the most difficult way to do it, but we're going to give it a bash anyway. In here we've got I hope this is showing up, there's a natural sort of dip in the ground and then raises back up again. It's a weird sort of, I don't want to say drainage because it doesn't really get wet in here, but it's a weird sort of dip that runs from this fence line. It doesn't really carry on into the field, but it runs from this fence line and runs kind of diagonally down that way. Now maybe, I'm going to say maybe it's been a drainage thing at some point, but for as long as I've been in here, this bottom part of it's never got wet, but it is distinctly dipped down. There's a giant bloody holly bush that's not going to be fun. Anyway, the point being, it's distinctly dipped down, which probably isn't showing. I'll get you from a lower angle. Again, GoPro doesn't show anything up really. And then it dips itself back up again. What I can see in my mind on this and visualize, so to speak, is what I'd best describe as an in and out. So there's a backside bank there that you might be able to see I've scraped a dark line through. I did that yesterday to try and remind myself of this place. That dark line there, if it shows up, is a backside of a landing, and you'll swoop in, and where it dips back up again here, pop you back out down in that direction where I've got another dark line going through. Again, in my head, which is really hard to explain to you guys, but in my head I can see now, I can imagine what the in and out feature looks like. So although I'm 150 meters on from where I would usually be starting again, because I sort of saw this yesterday afternoon and it's fresh in my mind, I want to put this in and out section in now, and I'll just build down towards it, so that way I don't forget it. I don't like come back to a place, because that's happened before. I've come back to a place and gone, shit, now I can't see it. I could see it before, now I can't. So while I've got it fresh in my mind, I'm going to do this section here. This is what we're working on today. Now that there are a few limbs down, does that make any more sense about the corridor through? Possibly not, because that holly tree's pretty aggressive and blocking stuff. I'll deal with that next. Just as a quick sort of side note before I start on pruning back this holly bush. If you'll have seen these before on park, these kind of things where it looks like I'm making I don't know what it looks like. I'm kind of making a fence out of old sticks. I've just recently learned what these are called. Thanks very much, Adam and Sam. These are called windrows, and the reason that they're in here is because they're a fantastic habitat for all the cool little like woodland creatures. They love to use it as a place to live, and as the bottom of it rots down, it kind of rots from the bottom upwards, and as it rots down it just makes it even better for other little creatures to move in, insects, etc. It's just really good habitat, and you know, wherever I can I like to put a windrow in. Okay, so that holly tree was a total headache wrapped up in a nightmare, but at least now I get to excuse me, swallowing part of the forest. At least now I get to explain what I mean by I could see an in and out. So the first kind of kicker here, you'll see it's not very big. It only goes to like a single log. You'll notice I've left some room around the side of it. I know I keep stressing this, but this track isn't like the rest of the tracks at GNAR, where, I mean, Jesus, wait until you see what I've got planned for Beggars Canyon. But it isn't like those tracks, so it's not going to be really asking you to kind of push your limits and push your skills and bravery to some extent. Anyways, Beggars Canyon's a different story. This track isn't about that. This is a race line that everyone can ride. Now, it will reward those who are a bit more brave, or those who have had a bit more practice across the rest of the park. So let's try and explain how that works. So on here you may be able to see that we've got just a single log, but we are going to boost a bit of a kicker off it. So if you so choose, you can just ride up that and step off of a single log. Okay, let's just get into the kind of downslope a bit here. This is what I was trying to explain earlier that may not show up that well on camera. However, if you don't want to just drop off a single log, you can boost it down into this back end and pump into here. As you're pumping through, you're going to naturally gain speed and kick back out of this other side. Now again, this is just a single log, so if you've dropped off, stepped down, I suppose it is legit a step down. So if you step down off of a single log because your vibe isn't to jump and send, that's okay. All you're going to have to deal with over here is to ride up again and step down off of a single log into some whoops. So this black line is what I've left myself for the intention of putting in another rounded log mound here. The way that I'll ride it, and I'm not saying you have to ride it that way, because you can keep your wheels on the ground if you want, but it'll be boost off of that one. You're looking at about, into the sweet spot, you're looking at about 20 foot. Bearing in mind, you're absolutely hooning it into here, so reaching 20 feet isn't going to be that hard. But boost into the backside, pump really hard, pop up over here, double the whoops, and land into the backside slope that I'll build into here. So this can be obviously ridden two ways: at full speed, full send mode, or just ride over it and let them drop, keeping tyres on the ground at the whole time. And I know I keep going on and on and on about this, but this is what this track is supposed to be about. There will be options if you really want to boost in and go fast. That's cool, but we've got to remember at the same time that racing it's meant to be about fun, and I don't want to force anybody to have to do something that they don't feel comfortable doing. That's why this whole track you will be able to ride completely with both wheels on the ground at all times. If you want to send it though, there are going to be the options there. Right, so it is legit starting to get a bit dark in here. I'm going to have to make my way back. But I suppose one last thing on this kind of stuff, on this track. One way that I haven't really tried to explain it is it's going to be essentially a little bit like a 1 kilometre long pump track. So you know, when people are riding pump track, there's those, if they've got a bit of speed on, then there's those options to double over if they want to, and then you can pump off the other side, and that in turn gives you a bit of extra speed and a bit of extra boost. That's kind of what this back fence racetrack is all about. There's a lot of things that I know I'm missing from telling you, especially about the events company and stuff. I had a good talk to Simon yesterday. We went for a cheeky pint over in the pub in Armathwaite and had another chat there. And I think the only reason that I'm not sharing those things is because plans are changing all the time at the moment. The overall plan hasn't changed, but you know, methodology and how we go about it is kind of constantly changing until we, excuse me, drank my coffee way too fast, until we actually dial it in and are definite with what we're doing. Anyway, all in good time. It's all coming, and I'll give you the score on it and give you the crack. One of the messages that I got recently was, is this track going to be open all the time, or is it just for events? No, it is going to be open all the time. So there will be, to the GNAR family of tracks, as well as Beggars Canyon coming, which is what I'll move on to next after I've built this. That's coming, and then this 1 kilometre long, big long track's coming too. Not, again, you know, this one's not the most difficult track that there is here, but once it's done, we'll move on to filming Beggars Canyon, and I can show you what's going on in there. And that's going to be, even for me, I'm scratching my head about how I might ride it. But all of this is going to be what I'm going to be ready, and hopefully a little bit more. But all of this is going to be what I'm ready and open with in around March 2019. So I know it's a bit of a pain in the backside, me being closed at the moment, but it does allow me this time to just focus on building. I'm not having to worry about the rest of the tracks. I'll just do a big, maybe even a fortnight long maintenance run just prior to opening. So with that in mind, I'm not having to worry about them right now, and it just allows me to concentrate on what I'm doing. So just before it gets actually dark, I don't know if you can see, but down this corridor here, it's getting all a bit orange and golden. It's starting to, the light's starting to fill. I'm going to knock it on the head for today, and I'm off to go and see that Bohemian Rhapsody film, because yeah, why not? That'll do for me, and I'll see you shortly.